and JayStunZ.
Hi, I'm Tommy. Hi, I'm Jay, and we're the Preschool Platoon. And you're listening to the Gulag Podcast.
All right, boys and girls, Gulag Podcast. It is Thursday, 5 p.m. as promised. I hope you guys have your questions ready. We have the Gamer Doctor in the building. JayStunZ is temporarily unavailable due to service. He'll be back in a couple seconds. But we have the Gamer Doctor, Dr.Ayleen, Dr.Ayleen Augustine, who not only does she fix me up because I'm a wreck probably at the beginning of every week after a whole week of gaming, sitting in this chair for so many hours, which is comprised of editing and doing all this stuff and gaming. But Dr. Ayleen is here today because, number one, we want you guys as gamers to be able to keep yourself healthy in the age of COVID, where some people can't even go to the gym. Some people, whoa, there's JayStunZ. Hey, there you are. That's a lot better than where you were. So Dr. Ayleen is here for that. We're also going to get into today is the actual day for National Suicide Prevention for the month of September, the 10th of September. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, mental health as far as gamers and the kind of stuff that, you know, we kind of put ourselves through emotionally as a gamer, because I think we take people's comments into consideration when we're going through social media. So we're going to talk about that today. And as well as any of your questions, if you have any questions, make sure you type it in chat, and me and JayStunZ will get to those questions somewhere in the segment today. But make sure if you have questions for Dr. Ayleen, whether it be about something with your back, something's hurting you while you're gaming, write it in the chat and then we'll get to it. But Dr. Ayleen, thank you for being here today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about, you know, the background, the fact that we call you the gaming doctor, because she is a gamer. She's not only a doctor, she's also a gamer. She's also a reverend. All right.
Yes, I am. I wear a lot of hats, and you know, thank you for having me on. And yes, I am a gamer and a boomer. So I guess that makes me a goomer. I don't know. But I really, you know, just love the idea of being able to come in and share a little bit, both about helping people find a way to, you know, improve the comfort with their gaming. Because I mean, we all know, you know, you're into it, you're doing it, you're getting there, and all of a sudden that pain starts to creep up, either in your back or maybe it's in your neck. And, you know, suddenly the game is not fun. And, you know, for those of us who game, we know that part of it is because it's fun. It's our passion. We enjoy it. And when pain becomes involved, then pain starts to get related to what it is that you're doing. And, you know, and that takes away from it. It takes away from the experience. And, you know, the idea that I am able to help. And, you know, and I see a lot of different, you know, folks, and Luna. Yeah, this is my cat.
And she's got a special spotlight there.
Well, when I do my YouTube videos, she always has to get in front of the camera. So if she sees me talking to anything with nobody else in the room, she assumes that I'm filming and she needs to be involved in that. So she's the gamer kitty.
Yeah, she even gave her a little speech right there. I like it.
Oh, yeah. But the thing is that, you know, the gaming community is really, really diverse. And there's a lot of people who, you know, they're on every end of the spectrum as far as their health, as far as their wellness. But the thing is, discomfort should not take away from the joy of gaming. And I just want to help people be able to figure out how they can, you know, get the most out of their gaming and get the most out of their body and really work on feeling good about it. And another part of what I do is I help people figure out kind of how they can get the most out of life, how they can be balanced. People who are very sensitive to the emotions of others. And, you know, like you were mentioning the fact that, you know, when people get hate in the comments and stuff, one of the reasons why it hits some people so hard is because they're empathic. It's because they're able to pick up the emotions of other people. So that means if somebody is being judgy toward an empath, it immediately becomes them being judgy towards themselves. And for people who are sensitive to the emotions of others, it makes it that much harder to be able to let go of what it is, that emotional piece that's coming in, because it's total projection. And then their bodies respond when we're not liking ourselves, our bodies respond to that. And so we're more prone to aches and pains and things like that. So I try to help people all the way across the spectrum.
Now, Doc, we talk about, today is the 10th. It's Suicide Prevention Month. Unfortunately, we've had some people in the streaming world, gaming world, take their lives, unfortunately, due to
Yeah.
this. So I'm sure you've seen across the board, because you also, you help people that are sick. You help people that are, going through things. You told me there's times that you have to sit with people and just help them go through certain things. How much of that have you seen personally, or do you feel is connected to our little realm here of gamers and streamers? It takes an impact. I tell people it does. It's not doing this like full time, or doing this almost 7 days a week, sitting here like me and JayStunZ. We work our butts off in between all the stuff he does, because he has a lot of projects that he does. I have a lot of projects that I do. But I don't think people they think that we sit in the chair and we play video games, and then that's the end of it. And for some people, that's the truth. But then for the people who are serious and trying to take this as a career, it's a very difficult thing, because emotionally you're kind of all over the board with with everything going on, because it's hard for you, because not only that, but people need to understand that this is a public figure thing. We are public figures, as much as we don't like to believe it. Everybody sees us here live. We're live right now. We're public figures, and it's hard to balance that. And I see it in all these guys that are, obviously have been in it longer than we have. There was that there's Pokemon who took a long break and still doesn't feel like she can come back into streaming. So I mean, it's a lot of different issues that we face, and then sometimes we have to face them in the public eye, and
Yeah.
and put a smile on our face. I tell we were talking about that last week. Putting a smile on our face, and pretending everything's good, even though stuff in the background might not be good.
Yeah. And, it really is, because a lot of these folks are, really on the younger side. They're in their 20s, mid 20s, early 20s in some cases, and the fact that with my generation, if something came up, it was like face to face. There wasn't the high level of anonymous, type of attacks that go on, because people are empowered when, nobody can see them. If they were to have to say the exact same thing up in somebody's face, they probably wouldn't. But the anonymity of the internet allows people to really, tap into that, that lack of humanity on their own part. And, the judgment comes out. And like I said, it's like, it's body, mind, and spirit. And if your body is reacting to something, there's a good chance it's because there's something either in your heart that's hurting, something, something that's gotten in your head, because it just seems like the whole trolling, paradigm is about getting into somebody's head. And for some reason, others, find a way, because they're not satisfied with their lives. They have to pick at somebody else. They've got to try to pull somebody else down. And I mean, it really is heartbreaking, because, and also I find that, in a lot of cases, people who, gamers and people who do, social media and focus on it, it's like, well, you're playing at that. And I really think that's a huge disservice, because it diminishes the tremendously hard work that people go through just to do this every single day. I mean, if somebody said, it's like, okay, you're going to work a job and you're going to work it every single day for years. And, it's just, and you have to keep at that level. And even when you're not feeling good, there's that thing that comes in where it's like, nope, I got to get up there, and, and I've got to, put it out there. But what's going out there is in direct contradiction with what you're feeling inside. And that can really wear on people. And I mean, quite honestly, there is a level of disrespect, I think, for, the folks who do this. And when you get so much disrespect, it turns inward. And fortunately for some, it's like, they can't talk about it to somebody because there's that total dismissive thing. Well, you don't have real problems. You just play games for a living. And, it's like when I tell my peers, it's like, yep, I'm a gamer. I enjoy games. Why? And there's this immediate dismissive nature. I think gamers are probably the most amazing people on the planet because they do, when you see somebody who's really doing something they love, something they're passionate about, and, considering the fact that so many people are a part of this, and and they bring their problems, and it's a way for them to set their problems aside for just a little bit. And for that, because we, even with COVID-19, we're now in a very much separated community. And so the main contact people have is through the internet. And it just really hurts me that people aren't able to get the help they need, or at least to find the help they need in order to be able to move through some of the things. Because I mean, they're worthwhile. Everybody's a worthwhile person. People don't often realize just how vital they are. They don't realize that they are the only them in the universe, in all of the universe. They are the only them that has ever existed or will ever exist, which makes them precious. It makes them crucial. If you didn't need to be here, you wouldn't be here. So because you're here, you're needed. And, it's like people to, maybe every once in a while, they'd like to hear somebody say, I'm proud of you. Maybe they don't get that so much. Maybe it's like, well, yeah, being a gamer is nice, but you should get a 9-to-5 job, or, you should get a real job. And, it tears because everybody wants to feel like, their people are proud of them. When people do not have that, it tears away at the inside of a person.
I feel like the only reason that they'd be proud of you is when they see how many zeros come at the end of your checks. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
They're not proud of you about all the work you put in beforehand, all the work and all the sacrifices you make beforehand. They only see that later on, when they do our little stories, our little biographies about us, all of us individually as gamers, is, oh yeah, or streamers or whatever it is. Because honestly, me and Jay, we shouldn't even be called like just gamers or streamers. We're actually doing more than that. This is a podcast. We're literally being broadcasted through so many different. You can listen to us anywhere in the world now. That's how much this podcast in such a short amount of time has been able to grow. Is that we're in all the big markets, and you can listen to us anytime. But for people to understand, it doesn't matter how many zeros are in your paycheck. It matters is if you're happy doing whatever it is that you want to do. I could give a shit if you get paid $15 an hour or $12 an hour. If you're happy making sandwiches at Subway, then go do it. I'm not going to knock you for it because I need someone to make me some good sandwiches at Subway. I'm not going to knock you for it if that's what you're happy to do. That's why if people were not happy to do their jobs and you're stubborn and you're just doing a job because, oh, the pay looks great, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. You're doing it for all the wrong reasons. And there's no reaping the rewards later because you're going to kill yourself trying to do something that you're not happy doing. You're stressed out about all the time. And, you take it home when you get off work, you take it home to your family or your loved ones or whatever. And then you cause a bigger problem over there. Instead of doing, yeah, you know what? When I started off streaming, I wasn't making jack and I was still working a full-time job. And I was, and I was stretching it thin. Time was thin. Sleep was very thin during those times. But, now I've been, I don't want to say blessed or cursed because you know what my condition is too. But I've been either blessed or cursed with this condition that I have now. And I'm dealing with it accordingly and still not stopping. Obviously, I could be laying on the bed and saying, you know what, screw the world. I'll just sit here and feel sorry for myself. But I'm not doing that. I'm sitting here doing this every day because this is what I love to do. So, I mean, but what you do. what are some steps that people can take to help themselves, like, mentally, uh, keep themselves, like, in balance in a situation like this because of COVID? Some people can't go seek help because a lot of doctors are having a hard time trying to keep up with the patients that they haven't seen from
Yeah.
March, April. What are things, like, mentally that we could do as gamers and streamers that could help them kind of cope with all the stress and all the anxiety and all the fear that is going on right now?
Okay. That is a great question because, like you said, the ability to just go and see somebody is very different now than it was at the beginning of the year. So the idea of what does that person need right now? And what I would say the first thing is, you can't deal with a problem unless you acknowledge that there is a problem. And sometimes that is the hardest thing for us to do, is that to acknowledge we're not okay, because we live in a society where, oh no, if you're not okay, there's something wrong with you. You are less of a person, you're weak. And so being able to move past that, if you can find even one person that you can talk to and just look them dead in the face and say, I'm not okay, and have that person be able to go, okay, let's do something about this, but to treat it seriously, not, and it's not up to them to fix the problem. It is up to it's up to the individual, but being able to start creating a support team, create those few friends who are going to be able to, not freak out, not decide that they're Dr. Phil, but who will listen to you. Because I think one of the biggest things is people are not listened to. They don't feel like they're listened to. And it may be because they don't feel safe talking. And maybe they're carrying around some stuff that is really, really heavy and really, really hard inside of them. And they need to be able to find somebody who is safe, who is able to go, okay, I can hear what you're saying, and just, not try to change anything. Another thing that I would recommend, since, if you can't get into, like, to see somebody, forums actually, you can find forums that are dedicated to certain, issues, because, there's a really big spectrum of things that can trigger people. One is, depression. It may be that they have, like, maybe some form of OCD that keeps them from feeling like they can connect with the people around them. Maybe they have, conditions that become an issue with social interaction, where they don't take social cues. And sometimes people don't even realize that, there's a reason why they feel awkward. There's a reason why they don't feel like they can talk to people. And the fact that, that isolation that we're all in only intensifies that, because then you're only listening to that voice in your head that is, just really being very critical. Another thing is to, be able to utilize the internet. I mean, we have the collective knowledge of the planet that is on here. And it is, being able to do some research. If you don't know how to do research, or if you don't know what to research, find somebody else who can go, oh, okay, let's research that. You can just type in what you're feeling, and it will actually, give you guidance on what you might be dealing with. Ultimately, it's always best to be able to seek a professional. And, if people have particular spiritual uh, paths that they follow. I've worked with people who are, indigenous traditions. I've done a lot of work with indigenous traditions from around the world. So the idea of connecting, because sometimes for people, they need to be able to connect to something. And in some cases, maybe that's their heritage. Maybe it's their, or the traditions that they would like to embrace. Maybe they weren't born Native American, but they really feel comforted by Native American tradition. So that means that you find somebody who can be able to kind of guide you through that pathway and say, okay, if this is the way that works for you, if this is your doorway, we can open that doorway for you. But it's really very much about overcoming the desire to protect yourself and keep quiet and stay solitary. I beg each person, find one person that you can talk to. Find one person that maybe it's out your absolute best buddy who you've been friends with for years. And actually, in some cases, I've had people who were total strangers just walk up to me and, start up a conversation. And the next thing you know, we're going through some really heavy stuff that they're experiencing. And by being able to connect with someone who can be able to give you other ideas than the one that's starting to build up, because once you start down that downward spiral, people end up going for a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And it's important for people to understand that what they're feeling in this moment, and tomorrow may be a different feeling. And if you've had this feeling for a really long time, then you can still be able to do it. It doesn't matter. Everything starts day one, moment one, when you decide that you want something to change. That's day one. It doesn't matter how long that it's been going on. It can be worked with. It can be addressed. And for people who are accustomed to, the streamers and, people who are accustomed to really interacting a lot. And in fact, they're usually the ones who hold the most back. People who stream, people who do podcasts and stuff, often they're the ones who are carrying stuff inside of them that they won't share with anyone. And, that's why a lot of them end up, I see a hand, people don't know what's going on inside you. People don't know, the struggles. And maybe it's just everything you can do to get out of bed that morning. Maybe it's everything you can do not to get back into it. And, that's the beauty of people who stream, people who game, is even if there's nothing else, if the game gets you out of bed, if the game gets you out of the thought process you're in, then it's a good thing. Then it's a helpful thing. It's like it's an escape. Well, if your life is sucking that much, an escape is a good thing. And it also affords people the opportunity to find a community of people that, that they can relate to. But, it's that isolation. It's that feeling of loneliness. It's that feeling of no one is going to understand this anyway. And maybe most people won't, but you can find someone who does. And, that was like one of my big things about me when I started to put things out and put out videos and stuff like that. The main thing is I wanted people to understand that they're not alone, that there is somebody who cares. And I don't care if I don't know you. I care about you because I know how valuable you are, even if you don't know that yourself. And nothing makes me happier than helping somebody realize exactly how vital they are in this world.
Jay raises his hand, but this is the guy that when something's wrong, he's there for everybody. I'm not going to lie. This guy raises his hand, but he is the guy, if someone has a problem, and Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, that they go to you 100%.
Yep.
So, yeah. I mean, he raises his hand, and
I raise my hand to her, saying like, not everybody knows everything about me because I don't open up.
Right. Yeah. But this is the guy that when stuff is going on in people's lives that are in our streaming group. We have a pretty large streaming group within Discord and Twitch. But man, when people have problems, I know Jay's going to be there for them. I try to be there for them.
I'm in so many communities that all it takes is for somebody to post up, "Hey, I'm having a bad day," and I'll throw a DM up and be like, listen, like, what's going on, and I want to have a half-hour conversation with the person, and we'll get in some deep stuff, and at the end they'll tell me that they feel better. Or it could be somebody that's new to streaming asking a question about how to do something, and I'll be like, yeah, I got this. Or just setting up panels for it. It's something. It's how I've always said, I don't care about myself as much as I care about others. So if somebody needs help, I'm going to help them no matter what I feel or think. It's how I cope with what I'm going through by helping others.
So it's like a coping mechanism for you then.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
People who are very, very easily attuned to what other people are going through. It's like, you can just see somebody's message and know it's like, hey, there's a deeper story here. And that's really cool that you're able to do that. And it shows a level of sensitivity that once you connect, that you're in there with them on it. And that means the world to people. And, that also means that you need to be able to have that support. You need to be able to, because people, especially people who are empathic, people who are sensitive to the feelings of others, and you don't have to be like with someone. You can just read their post and be able to make a connection.
Yeah.
And that when that happens, it's like you're becoming a part of their solution, but you're also taking a part of their problem onto yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can get hard to separate that. And people who are really sensitive have a tendency to do that for other people as a coping mechanism, because it means I don't have to deal with me because I'm dealing with them, and them being okay helps me be okay.
Right.
And it's very, very common, and it's cool. And at the same time, it's also really, really important for you to realize how important you are, and how, I mean, even if you never said anything to anybody, you're still vital. You are a vital part of this universe. And, and because of what you do makes you that much more important, but that's not the only reason you're important. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you. It's kind of the reason why I started streaming in the first place. Was I would have probably one of the worst days ever at work, and I would come home and I would see, people streaming on Mixer or on Twitch, and just be like, they're not doing anything special to make somebody feel special. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to start streaming. What I'm going to do, my main goal will be, if somebody comes in who's like me, who's having a bad day, who's just down in the dumps, thinking everything can't get any better for them, and who knows, maybe they turn on my channel, they see me act like a complete fool or an idiot, and it makes them laugh and it makes them feel better, then that is worth it to me, because they were down in the dumps. But maybe, maybe I'm playing Call of Duty, and instead of pulling my parachute, I splat and break my legs and just go all over the place or whatever.
Which is common.
True. And, it makes them laugh, and, they feel better about the day that they had. Then that was the whole point of me starting streaming. And I lost vision of that about halfway through, and it took a lot for me to be like, you know what, I got to go back to where I was. And that's why, like, everything I do now is just, creating YouTube videos, holding customs night on CODs for people. Just it's just my way of making sure other people are having fun and just not being stuck in that rut of having a bad day.
And I mean, I took Jay on this adventure right here of this podcast, because the whole reason that this podcast was even made was to help people in this realm. We're not, as much as people don't want to believe it, being a streamer, being a gamer, you're in a whole different realm, because people watch you. When I would go to TwitchCon, people say hi to me and be like, "Oh, I see your stream," and I have no idea sometimes who these people are, and it's a thing where you're like we talked about in the last podcast with Nessa and Becca, like literally I spend more time with JayStunZ and Becca and Nessa and all these people that I stream with than anybody else, realistically, because a lot of our stuff that we do is based around right here, what we're doing right now, streaming and being on this podcast, and then after this I'm gonna have to edit this whole thing and re-put it up on Spotify. I'm serious. When you see those vlogs of us, like being that vlog of me in the middle of the night, still editing a podcast, it's 100% true. And it's a hard world. This, I said months back, before the pandemic even happened, it was like December or January, this road to streaming and being a streamer and trying to be a full-time streamer is one of the most loneliest roads that you could ever go. It's like being an entrepreneur. You're going up this road. It's dark, it's cold, it's lonely. I mean, and there's a bright side once you get to the top of the hill, but it is a dark and cold, lonely road when you're doing this.
Yeah, it really is. And the fact that, there are those elements of it. I mean, everything has light and shadow, and there are the elements within it that are people who just seem to get into it just to take out their aggravations on other people, or to, get other people all wound up. And, it's like probably the vast majority of the community are people who just love to go in and love to game, and and like Jay, like, just want to support each other, just want to help each other out. And it really is sad, because one person coming in who just wants to mess with people can push somebody to the point where it's like, they lose any joy in it. And and I'm sure you spend a lot of time, like, catching folks like that. It's like, okay, you're done, you don't need to be here anymore. And I mean, it just confuses me why anybody would waste their time on that. Why spend the precious amount of time that we have in this world and on this earth? Because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. And whatever precious time we have, you want to waste it on being negative, when you could help somebody out, when you could get that wonderful feeling of somebody saying, hey, you were there when I needed you, or what you said really, really hit me. And when you have the ability, and and I know both of you do this, is that you are able to gauge how much to break it down, whether or not you're the brother or the drill sergeant. Do they need a kick in the butt, or do they need someone to just say, hey man, you're going to be okay, hey, it's going to be all right. And that can mean the world to people. And for people who can instinctively understand what somebody else needs, what they need to hear, and the approach that they need, because sometimes people do need it. It's like, all right, hey, calm down, you're going to be okay. Let's throw all the way that other stuff out. But sometimes people just need to be held. They just need to have somebody saying, you know what, I'm sorry you're going through what you're going through, but you know what, it's gonna, there's a better day that's coming, and I can help you. I'll help you figure that out. I'm here with you. And this, I can't think of a way to do that better than by streaming and by podcasting, and even because it's like, listening to the banter, like during the gaming, and it's like, it goes from like, ah man, you suck, to hey, come on, that was you almost had it, come on, we can do this.
Yeah.
And
that
the banter turns pretty toxic too, though. On there,
mostly on his end though. Mostly on Narrow's end though.
Well, no, yeah, I go into verbalities, but they're my own little. I don't like speak them out to anybody. I go on my own little like rant and verbality.
On the flip side of everything too, when it comes to with helping with people, is you get the people that don't know what's going on and decide to label you as a white knight or a simp. They have no idea what's going on, and just you're there strictly as a friend to help somebody, and automatically that makes you a simp. Or the people that you do feel you can trust, and they betray you in ways that you wouldn't even picture them doing. But because we've become so close of friends on the internet, you don't see that happening. And I tell everybody that if I'm friends with you on the internet or real life, doesn't really matter. I consider you a friend. That's it. And to me, friends are family. So I don't expect people I consider friends to do some of the things that have been done to me. Those people I've kind of cut out, but there are several people that I still will and do anything for. They know who they are, and I've been called a white knight more times than I can count, strictly for helping somebody with a simple command, or I'm a moderator in their chat and somebody comes in and starts bashing them and just calling them things that I couldn't even imagine calling somebody else, and I banned them. And why'd you ban them? Blah 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 blah. You're such a white knight. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's my job to protect the streamer, and you're attacking her. Why am I going to allow you to do that? So you bet your ass I'm going to ban you. It's just the way it works. Like, don't even come at me and say all this stuff when you're going to sit there and act like a fool, because I'll just get rid of you even quicker. So, but everybody knows me. If you come in a channel that I'm in or moderating to troll, I'm going to eat you for breakfast. You do not want to start with me. 'Cause I will fight right back.
I'm me and Jay are just as bad.
like-
Me and him together, it's a bad combo in that chat room. Believe me.
It's so bad. Like they will come in and say one thing, and then then they'll be like, "Oh, well, you're fat." Okay, well, I'm obviously not trying to hide it. So congratulations, you can see the obvious. Or they'll just come out with something and just like. I will give some of them are very creative with what they do, but others are just so like, "Oh, your mom's a prostitute." Okay. I've heard that about 1,000 times. What else are you going to do? Oh, well, you're a bitch. Okay. I heard a 90-year-old lady down the street say something worse. Keep coming. There's no way to literally hurt me anymore when it comes to trying to attack me. The last time I was hurt by somebody attempting to attack me while streaming was some random popped into one of my streams and then sent me a whisper saying that because I had mentioned something about my sister passing away, they're like, "Oh, well, there's no reason why your sister's dead because you're her brother." That was the last time I was ever hurt, and from then on, I was like, not happening. So yeah, I've been hurt by people I consider friends doing messed up things to me, but that's coming from a friend. You don't expect a friend to hurt you like that. Whether it's just like saying things strictly behind your back or just sending you messages that just trying to get under your skin. It's not going to work. But by people I do not know, you can never hurt me again. I don't care who you are. If I don't know you, you can come in and say, "I hope you get hit by a bus tomorrow." I don't care. I don't know you. Your opinion literally means nothing to me. You have no impact on my life, so you can literally come at me with the worst things you want to come out with, just whatever. I'm not going to care. But if you're a friend of mine and you say something like that, it's going to hurt me, and then I'm going to get pissed off, and then it's going to come out even worse when I go back at you. So,
yeah. Well, I'm sorry about your sister. I lost my brother in January, and I'd already lost both my parents and my sister, and it's just me and my younger brother left. But I know how bad that can be, and it just that somebody would use that. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, there's no reason. It's crazy.
Yeah, right here, no. In this world, no. I'm not surprised at half the stuff that people say. Like,
and it reaches that point when it's just the stupidity. It's like, really, is this the hill you want to die on? Is this really, because I'm about to take you apart, and I really will not feel bad about it. Yeah, I generally like to try to be compassionate, but there's a point when I just reach. It's like, okay, so I'm fresh out of nice today, so I'm about to ruin you, and you brought it on yourself, and but it really is you realizing how messed up that person is, because when they get off that stream, when they walk away, when they turn off that computer, they are stuck in that little hellish world all by themselves, and they're stuck there with an obnoxious person, which is them. It's just really is, and there's always the folks who are the kind ones. There's always the folks who, hey, that's not right. And, it's like, I'm just waiting for simp to be done, because it's like, okay,
it never will be.
It was amusing for a while, but now it's overused. And,
people don't even know what it means.
I know. That's the thing. It's like,
what was it? I was in Emily's chat the other day, and some guy was in her chat and goes, "Oh, that guy's a simp because he let you kill him in Call of Duty." I'm like, he didn't let her kill him. She picked up a gun and shot him in the face, but he's a simp because he allowed her to kill him. Okay.
Well, no, it's because these kids, and I'm going to say kids because there's a lot of them that are here, have no idea, don't take the time to look. It's just like these kids who use the N-word and don't even have any idea what it means. Has no idea what the term means. Has not looked it up in the dictionary.
In a rap song,
right?
Narrow. What are you talking about?
It doesn't even determine anybody's color. All right, it doesn't even determine anybody's color. It determines that the person is a slave or stupid or dumber than they are. That is the official definition of what that N-word means. And you guys use it and try to shoot it towards people of color or whatever, not realizing that you are the one that's less smart than the person that you're talking to, and you're the dumbass, right? But see, that's the thing. Simp, that word, they overuse it, they oversaturate it in here. They get it in here, and it's become, and yeah, the N word, yeah, that's definitely bannable. Like there's not even any kind of reason to even use that word, especially with that er at the end of it. But simp is something that people need to understand what it is, and Jay brought it up last week. Even gave us an example of what a simp actually is. Unfortunately, one of our other guests' name was used in that sentence. Not her full name, mind you. Funnily enough, but as a example sentence, her name was used in that. So, but the way it's a double standard here on these platforms. It is, especially on Twitch. It's a double standard of us. Some people, you get banned for certain things. You say certain things, but for some people, you're talking about things that really matter with the times now. Because the times that we're in 2020, as Jay says, he can't wait for it to end. I don't even know what to say anymore. But in the internet age as a whole, we have a double standard now. We're stopping people from talking about certain things that back in the day, what we were discussing about before we got on air, about going to like MySpace or whatever. You were able to talk about anything on MySpace, right? You were able to talk about anything because it was your opinion. It was your First Amendment right to say what you wanted, and that's the thing. Is it's your opinion, and as Jay was saying, I mean, for me, only one opinion counts, and that's mine, right? It is, because like if I took all these people's opinions, and if everybody thought like this, then they could say whatever they wanted on the internet. But everybody takes everything personally, and they take everybody's opinion with a big grain of, not even a little grain of salt, like Himalayan salt. Just that's how much of they take of the opinion. If everybody would just think, hey, you know what? And I've said it to people right in their face. Your opinion doesn't fucking matter. Simple. It's simple. I don't care if you're the CEO of a company. I don't care if you're the mayor of a town. If your opinion your opinion has no effect on whether I'm going to do something or not going to do something. And that's the thing. Everybody's like, they're doing all this political banter back and forth. But at the end of the day, none of your opinions really matter. It's not going to matter because people are going to do what they want to do anyway. But we had this.
It's funny because like I'm looking at like when it comes to the whole internet tough guy thing or the keyboard warriors, like if you remember in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, it was all because that they were getting a movie done and they hated the movie. People were writing horrible reviews about it. But when they finally caught up to the guy that sold the idea for the film, they got paid. And what they spend the money on? They tracked down every single person and left a negative comment, went to the house and beat the shit out of them. That's what I want to do. So anybody that trolls any channel I mod for, if I could find your address, I will come to your house and beat the living shit out of you. All right? That's where we're at right now, because I'm so sick of people just attacking people for no reason, that if I have the capability of doing it, I will track down your address, come to your house, and beat the shit out of you just like Jay and Silent Bob. And I will have a friend with me so we could even pull off the whole Jay and Silent Bob thing. All right?
Trench coats and all.
So yeah, it'll have. I have a leather trench coat, dude. Don't mess with me. I'm telling you.
Well, but see, the thing is like people, like, for me, like, I don't know. I think my dude Gary Vee has just gotten way too far into my head, because I don't give a fuck about people's opinions. I started this podcast. People were telling me it's never going to work out. Well, motherfucker, I'm on Apple. I'm on Spotify. We can be heard all over the world at any time, and you can download this. Like, so I'm sorry. What were your opinions out about now? Where did your opinions matter? It didn't matter one fucking bit, because I didn't pay attention. If I paid attention to your opinion, this would never exist, and the Spotify and all that shit would have never existed. But that's why I'm saying I'd pay 2 cents. I don't give a fuck about your 2 cents. I have my opinions in my head, and I'm gonna go with my opinions, and my opinions. In my part, are right. And if whether I win or lose, guess whose battle it was? Mine. because you guys had no fucking part in it. I'm the
You
one.
know, the social media
I mean,
too. Social media's been such a negative thing. Like I know, like everybody loves Twitter and Twitch and Instagram and Snapchat, but social media has been the cause of so many deaths.
It has.
Because I know when I was in high school, I was bullied a lot. I went through a lot of shit. I lost 2 friends that had took their own lives, and it was a very trying time for me. I'm not gonna lie, I was at the point there myself in high school. Thank God, not Facebook, MySpace was not where it was back then. Because when you start seeing people literally commenting pictures on MySpace of, "Oh, kill yourself," and throwing up these pictures, or leaving, making all these now they are meme photos of people in awkward positions or doing awkward things or whatever, and then spreading it around, or the cruelty of, even back in the day, like the whole pantsing thing. When you were in elementary school, you go behind a person, yank his pants down, everybody gets a laugh at it. Doing stuff like that, taking a picture and spreading that around, that'll mess with somebody's psyche too. And it's so, social media has been responsible for so much shit between MySpace, Facebook, even camera phones that are the worst invention ever. I love them because you can capture your moment in the blink of an eye, but how many videos have come out causing so much shit because somebody had a camera phone on them and recorded a video of anything.
It only clipped half of it. That's
right.
It
could have been. It could even have been a fight. You could be standing outside your school and there's a big ass fight, and a kid gets brutalized, jumped by like 5 people and brutalized, blood all over the place, and you videotape it, you spread it all over the internet. Like it doesn't belong, and it's like, I mean, I love parts of social media, but it's leading to the downfall of this country, man.
Doc, in this day and age, right? When I was growing up, and if you want to know how far back that was in the 80s into the 90s.
1962.
Oh, so long.
Right? It is. It's been a long time. When we were growing up, like, bullying was in a different form, right? Because we didn't have social media. But we took care of the bullying ourselves. Because it was easy.
Yeah.
We went out in the basketball courts. I remember this. I was at a Catholic school back then, by the way. Fourth grade. Jeremy. I remember the kid's name, too. Jeremy. This guy was bigger than me, and he thought he would bully me. And I beat the dog. I had to go to the principal's office. I remember my mom showed up. I had blood on my shirt because I beat the dog living crap out of him. But that's the way we settled it. I didn't cry. I didn't sit there and tell my mom that this was happening to me. Doc, what has happened in those years of where we were when we were growing up? You said something, you did something, you bullied me. I only took it so much, and then that was it. You got your ass beat, or the bully got his ass beat, and then that was the end of the story. And then we moved on from there. What happened from that to now, because of the age of social media? What do you think happened to now, where everybody is this bullying thing has gone to where it is, and kids don't know how to handle the bullying? Like, back in the day, it was a simple fight. That was it. We proved who the bigger man was, shook hands at the end of it, and we went on with our day. I went through the rest of the school year with no issues.
Maybe when you were younger, but as it got older, if you wound up fighting and you lost that fight, it came back at you 50 times worse after.
What do you mean?
They wouldn't stop.
Yeah, and the thing is that, first off, most of those fights rarely resulted in like serious injury. And there was a certain mindset, like among the parents. When I grew up, it was like, okay, don't fight in school, but if you have to fight, win. And, that was the mindset that we grew up with. One of my sons was having an issue with a bully. And so I sat down, we talked about it. I said, what do you want to do? And he said, I want to fight back. I said, so fight back. Well, the teacher won't let me. And so, there's this whole thing. No, we need to teach them to be, gentle. So I marched my son to the principal's office. I looked the principal dead in the eye and said, he's going to be in here for fighting. And I want you to understand that I am telling him your system has failed him. So he will defend himself. He has my permission to defend himself. You do not take it up with him. You take it up with me. You take it up. I don't want his teacher talking to him about it, because if he's out on that playground, if you are not protecting him, he will protect himself. And he got into like 3 different fights with bullies that day. And, it's like one of them he lost, 2 of them he won. But that whole idea that, there's like cause and effect. And, when people pushed at you or bullied you or came at you in school, well, the immediate effect was, hey, I'm going to push back. We're going to settle this. But with social media, it's, I'm not going to go back to you. I'm going to go and try to ruin you on social media. I'm not going to settle this between us, because it's that whole idea that the bully needs an audience. And social media has provided one of the largest audiences on the planet for somebody to come in. And even if because you see somebody will put out a comment and then a whole bunch of other people, just jump on that person, they're still getting the attention that they want. And, and there's another side to this that, it's like the well-intentioned bully, because these are the people in our lives who, and they may actually love us, they may care about us, but will do those little things like, well, do you really want to waste your time with that? Do you really want to waste your life with that? And that makes it so much harder, because you're facing a bully that you have a relationship with. And Jay, like you were talking about, like friends, and, it's like, well, I'm your friend, so I'm going to tell you the truth. It's like, no, you're my friend, so why don't you shut your pie hole until, I'm ready to hear what you have to say. Don't just come at me with something. And, and it's like that in some ways, I think can do actually more damage than just a regular troll who, kind of comes at you. But like you said, when somebody is your friend, when somebody's close to you, when they know your vulnerable places, and, they decide, well, I'm going to do tough love with this person. And, and that can be, people don't realize how much they can damage the people close to them, and how deep that damage can go. And then, it's like, well, it's either, well, I was just kidding, or, well, I was only saying it because I care. But neither one of those make a difference. And especially for people who want to dedicate their lives to being streamers, who want to build something, who want to build, to have it be their business, have it be their career. And, to hear from someone who, you care about, it's like, well, you're really kind of wasting your time, or, just whatever, the little petty things that can be said that people don't realize, or they'll tell a joke. It's like, that joke wasn't funny, and in fact, oddly enough, this morning I had a friend call me up. First thing out of her mouth was, well, I'm going to kill myself. And I said, that's not funny. And she's like, well, I mean, I said, no, if you're telling me this, that's not funny. I don't care. And this is somebody who I've known for like over 40 years. It's like, I don't want to hear it, especially not today. Today is about people recognizing, and so that idea that people often don't realize the impact of their words, especially with people who they feel they're familiar with. And, and that can be harder to deal with than the schoolyard bully, because that's someone who's in your life, and how you manage that. And it's like, having boundaries, and, for years they've talked about, it's like, okay, you got to have good boundaries, but that is so hard to have and maintain, because once you build the boundary, you got to be able to maintain it. And it's really easy for someone to get by it, because you're emotionally attached, because there's a part of you that doesn't want to believe that that person would be hurtful. And, it's really vital for people to understand how important support can be, how important, having what you feel, whether they agree with what you feel or not, but to have it validated is like, well, I don't understand why you feel the way you do, but I'd like to try. I mean, that can build so much, because a person can be able to express themselves. And really, I think it just comes down so much to people being listened to, for people to be able to say what they need to say and be heard, and not have the person talking to them. It's like, you can almost see that they're not listening to you, because they're figuring out the first thing they're going to say as soon as your mouth stops moving. And, in situations where, especially like new gamers, I've had, I do community plays, and a lot of them are with young people who I absolutely love hanging out with, because as soon as they find out I'm a gamer, it's like, really, really? And they kept trying to talk me into playing Fortnite. And I said, no. And they're like, well, why? I said, because I don't need a 12-year-old telling me he had sex with my mother. And, and I am not a good, I love the game. That doesn't mean I'm good at it, but I just really love playing. And, that idea that, it's like, you don't need to tell me I suck. I know I suck. And, if your whole purpose for being in this game is to just let other people know how bad they are, where is your enjoyment? You're not getting an enjoyment. You're not here for the right reason. And it's just, and really, like you said about, the fact that the impact of social media has made it so easy to be a jerk anonymously. And there is, because when you were a jerk face to face, you might get pepper spray in the eyes, you might get punched. But when you're a jerk where there are no consequences, it can, in some people, it can bring out that worst part of themselves. Their self-loathing becomes what they express.
Yeah, it's really hard, like, because I hear so many people. I was watching those videos about those kids who, just because of Facebook, getting bullied on Facebook, whatever it be about, whether it be about their sexual orientation. And I mean, this is stuff when we were in high school, like, jokes are jokes. We did our own little, thing there. And mind you, back when I was in high school, things were not as open as they are now. In some way, shape, or form, everything was just kind of hidden or whatever. And if you were a different sexual orientation, you never really spoke about it. And, but, I was towards the end when Facebook, YouTube, YouTube, Facebook, that's when all the technology started happening, is after I got out of high school. What? It's just so different now. The bullying on like Facebook is causing kids to take their own lives. And it's such a tragedy. Like what steps, like if people have like kids, brothers or sisters, what steps could they take to help them, the younger audience, obviously, that are really affected by what is being said about them. And obviously when we're younger, we don't understand that we should take everybody's words with a grain of salt, because there's a popularity contest when you're at school. And when your peers are sitting there bullying you and bullying you and bullying you on social media, what steps or what things should they say to their younger brothers, sisters, or daughters, or sons that can help them cope through this, because it's not an easy thing. I can't give them the Gary Vee speech when they're that young. I mean, I could, but how effective is it going to be? Because words do hurt in that when you're that young. But what steps could we take to help them understand that these things aren't really going to affect your life?
Yeah. Well, and the idea of encouraging them first, it's not so much as what you say to a young person, it's what you hear from them. Get them to talk about what it is that they're feeling, because it may be that, it may seem like something trivial. It may seem like, it's like, well, that's really not important. And, names don't hurt. It's like, no, names do hurt. Words hurt. But the biggest damage that it does, it's not so much what someone says. It's once that message gets in to their heads, it gets into their hearts, it gets into their spirits, that's where the damage is done. It's because once it comes in, and especially for young people, because, children go through a stage where all they want to do is fit in. They want to be able to, nobody wants to be unique at that point. Everybody wants to fit in. And the worst punishment in many cultures around the world is to be shunned and to be rejected by your group. And, growing up where, you did not talk about feelings, only girls were allowed to have feelings. And, and that made us weaker than everybody else. But the idea that encouraging people to talk about what they're feeling, and then say, okay, what do you want to do with it? What would help you? What is it that you would like to see? And sometimes like, well, I want to see that person, not bother me, or I don't want to have them pick on me. It's like, okay, so what do we need to do to make that happen? How can we make that happen? Because the idea that they can be able to learn how to solve their problems, it's like, okay, this problem is going to happen, but once it reaches you, what is it that you want to do with it, and how do you want to deal with it? Because it could be something, like I said, it could be something that would seem very minimal, that for some reason hits that particular kid in a very hard way. And if they're told, well, that doesn't matter, that wasn't a big deal, why are you getting so upset over nothing? It's not nothing. Let them talk about it. Let people talk about it. And by encouraging kids to talk to somebody, it means that as they grow, they're not going to hold stuff inside of themselves. It will be their reflex to go, you know what? I'm having a problem. There's someone who I need to talk. Who can I talk to about it? Who can I go to encourage them to be able to go to their guidance counselors, to, the teachers that they trust, to older siblings, and being able to find somebody that they can be able to communicate with, because it's not so much about the information they're given, it's about how they can be empowered to be able to step up into their own authority. And it's through that they ultimately learn, oh, okay, well, that person I don't have to listen to, that person I don't have to, because that comes with maturity, that comes with life experience. But when they're young, for them to be able to understand, I am not alone in this, because often it's like everybody's picking on you and you're alone. And, and that scenario has been very common. And so when you're the odd man out, it makes it that much harder for you to reach out and say, hey, I need somebody to talk to about this. I need to get advice. I need somebody to listen to me. And by encouraging young people to do that, to talk about what is happening to them. And, and sometimes they're threatened. Sometimes it's like, well, if you tell, XYZ is going to happen. And for them to be able to do that. And the first thing, like if I'm dealing with somebody who's doing that, the first thing out of my mouth when they stop talking, because I don't interrupt them, is to say, I am so proud of you. What you did was so tremendously hard. And I am so proud of you for what you did. I'm proud of you that you talked about it. And that took a lot of guts. And it's that courage that you have that, for you to talk about it, that same courage is something we can be able to help you use to get through this. But you let them know how proud you are of them, how courageous they are, because it does take a lot of courage to say when something's wrong. And just to say, it's like, you know what? We are going to get through this, but you're the one in charge. You're the one, you get to decide what you want to do about this. And to really help them problem solve on their own. Because it really is, the more empowered someone is, the less other people can affect them. Empowerment can't be given. They have to learn it and develop it from inside. They can be helped to develop it, to have that sense of themselves and who they are and how amazing they are and how important they are. They're not a nobody. They're not what somebody else wants them to think. So they know their own truth.
And as for us streamers, like sometimes we get kids that come to us and tell us like stuff that's going on in their lives. It happens a lot. Jay knows. I get it in my stream. A lot of streamers that we watch their streams that are in our social circle. What can we do as streamers to get the message across to kids like that are, they're in that position where they're being bullied, because I've heard this on my stream before. But what can we say? I mean, we're not their parents, right?
Yeah.
But what can we say? Because obviously they're going to our streams. They're telling us about their problems in our streams. What can we do as streamers to what words can we tell them to help them and encourage them to go talk to their parents or
Yeah. Well, I would say probably the first thing is just to listen. First thing is, let them talk about it, and then ask them, what would you like to happen? What do you want to happen? So that way they can start figuring out, because as soon as they figure out what they want to happen, then they can start, then it's like, okay, well, how can this happen? Well, a really good way for this to happen is, who is a grown up? Ask them, who is a grown up in your life who you trust? Who is somebody who maybe it's an older brother, maybe it's an aunt, maybe it's an uncle. Sometimes the parents might or might not be the best person to go to. And I say that, as a parent, is that sometimes there may be someone else. There may be, an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent, who are able to, be someone that individual can talk to. They need to find somebody. So what I would recommend to you is really help them explore who it is that they can talk to, who is near them, who is in their lives that they can be able to feel safe with, and start really cultivating and encouraging them. It's like, okay, well, this is someone you trust. Would you how would you feel about talking to them about this? How would you feel about, what would be a way that you would be able to feel comfortable? Who could you feel comfortable talking to? So being able to get them to connect with someone, that's probably the best thing you can do. But let them be able to sort of start to figure it out, because often most people will not ask. It's like, oh, what do you want to do? What would you like to happen? Because it's often about telling, somebody, it's like, okay, well, what you need to do is, it's like, well, what do you want? What would you like? And just by them verbalizing it, by them saying it, maybe it's like, well, I just want them to stop picking on me. Okay, if that's what we want, let's figure out how that can happen. How do we make that happen? How do we get that result that you want? But by having them name what they want is very empowering for young people to say, because most people don't ask young people what they want. They tell them. They
Right.
don't ask.
Right.
And, for a lot of, for growing up in the generation of children are seen and not heard, we were not encouraged to talk. I was told that I did not get to have an opinion until I was 18. And, when you're under 18, you don't get an opinion. You live in my house, you live by my rules. And it was a different way. Young people have a different way with parents now. And I think that there's definite places where social media can be very, very helpful, and there's definite places where social media can be very, very, very damaging. And the more empowered a person is in dealing with that, the more tools that they have to go, you know what? Maybe this person's just an ass. Or to go, it's like, wow, is this something really valid for me? Because anything that comes in, the first question should be, is this true? Is this a part of my truth? If this person is saying this about me, is there any truth in it? And if you determine that there's no truth in it, and that means that it is not valid, that is their truth, it's not yours. As long as you understand it is not your truth, theirs, then we can be able to separate it. But, and a lot of people have that hypersensitivity towards others. They're empathic, which means you can literally feel what someone else is feeling as if it's your own feeling. And so when somebody who is that sensitive gets criticized, and that means there's two people criticizing them, because they start criticizing themselves. They accept that other person's perspective because they're feeling it as if it's their own feeling. And that is probably one of the most damaging situations, is because then at that point it's, well, I deserve this. And that can be very hard to turn people around. And I noticed there's somebody in the chat saying, someone named Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob.
wanted
Yeah,
to ask.
he's got a couple questions. By the way, if you guys have questions, please make sure you send them to Jacob, and he'll send it to us on the thing. Do we have any questions for Dr. Ayleen?
Well, we do have one question from Jacob, but I just want to comment on that whole thing. Self-esteem and self-confidence are the two things that are always damaged by bullies, because they are taken away from self. You
Mhm.
listen to what they say, and it's no longer self-esteem, it's what they think compared to what you think of yourself. I learned that the hard way. I was bullied most of my life, so my self-esteem and self-confidence is garbage. But
Mhm.
the only time I ever acted out was one day in high school. A kid in the lunchroom told me that my mother was a slut, and I stood up, picked him up, and slammed him against a locker, and that was it. That was it for him. Like, I mean, I dented the locker with his head, like everything. Like, he was done. When it comes to me, I never fought back. I regret it, but I never fought back. Um,
Mm.
it's it penetrates your brain and it stops you from thinking of yourself as the best thing there is like the first friend of mine that took his life in high school. He was made fun of because me and him would talk about hockey every day, and he was literally bullied because he was such a hockey fan. Like, he could name every Stanley Cup champion from the beginning. He could name all-star players from every team from any year. He was an obsessed fan, and there's nothing wrong with that. He was a sports fan, but he was made fun of for it because he was seen as an outsider. And he went home and took his father's gun and ended it,
Yeah.
strictly because he was made fun of for liking hockey. Bullying takes what is the most important, which is yourself, your self-image, your self-esteem, and your self-image, and it
Mhm.
turns it around and makes it their esteem, their image, and their confidence, because you start believing everything they say to you, and it tears you down. I'm still trying to find some semblance of a self,
Yeah.
whatever, and it's not always the easiest thing, and it's just my cousin was telling me that he was being bullied, and I'm like, I didn't really know how to handle it. I told him, you know, it's more important what you think about yourself than what other people think about you. He's like, but the bullies won't let up. I was like, you know what? Fine.
Mm.
If you don't do something about these bullies, I'm gonna kick the shit out of you. And my cousin's like, why? I'm like, you want to be bullied, so I'm bullying you. But the problem is, I'm bullying you with love, because I'm telling you, if you don't act, you're gonna wind up like me. So do something, or I'm gonna do something about it, and you're not gonna like it. The next day, he walked in and he told his bullies to leave me the fuck alone and cracked them. To this day, he was not bothered again.
Mm.
And he's like, I can't,
Yeah.
I understand you, you said what you said. I'm like, yes, I did bully you, and that made me no better than him. But I came through it in a loving place, not in a way to hurt you. I just wanted you to make an action, because if you didn't act, you would be doubting yourself for the rest of your life in any situation that was presented to you in that type of situation. So, granted, I screwed myself up by not acting back, but getting him to do it made a world of difference.
Now,
Well, I
Doc,
mean,
I'm sorry,
it's
Doc,
not
go
an
ahead.
exact science, and when you can be able to do what it is that that feels right in your heart, and it is a difficult situation to be in when you're dealing with somebody, and knowing when that push needs to happen, or whatever. But it sounds like you did the best that you knew how to do, and it helped the situation, so good for you.
Now, Doc, today's the actual day for suicide prevention for the month of September. What could you say to people, that are either going through that situation, and e- everybody in any part of their life, it could happen at any time. Like, you could feel like it's the end of the world. You could feel like it's there's no hope. It's happened. I think it's happened to everybody in their life. But what could we say to people if that conversation was to come up, that they're seriously thinking about just ending their life, to help them, um, because it is something that's way too common now. We have uh, it happens way too often where people just don't even bother talking to the people and reaching out to them, and then these people just end up, they end up dying from suicide, and then later they come back and say, oh, God, if I only. So what can we do, and how do we identify these the actions of people that might be, in that process of thinking about taking their own lives?
Yeah, I mean, and really, I would say that there is no one who at some point does not consider it, does not think about it. And, I'm myself included. And it is when you're at that point, it's not so much that you don't want to live, it's you don't want to live the way you're living. And so I would say that really, if somebody comes in with a conversation like that or with a thought like that, one thing you can ask them is it that you don't want to live, or you don't want to live like you're living? And by them saying, if they say, it's like, what, they can identify a situation. What is the situation that is inspiring the thought? Because it's not a thought that under normal circumstances people would have, even though everybody has it at some point. It usually takes a set of circumstances to get them there. They didn't just wake up and decide, unless there are certain things, there are certain medications that can trigger that, it affects the brain chemistry to the point where it will actually trigger people to do that. Oddly enough, antidepressants can do it. One of the main side effects is the desire to kill yourself. And the
That's why
idea
I
that,
stopped.
yeah, because then it becomes a question of, okay, what is the triggering action or the impulse? Is it that they may be dealing with a chemical imbalance? They may be dealing with, there may be an issue of addiction. It may be an issue of abuse. It may be that they've fallen in love and they had their heart broken. It may be that their favorite team lost. So helping that person figure out why they want to do that, or what is it that they want to do. So, really start asking questions. It's like, well, if you feel this way, can you tell me why? Or what has happened to make you feel this way? What is it in your life that has changed? Did you always feel this way? Did you always want to take your life? And most people will say no. Okay, so what's changed? What's different in your life? What is this other thing that has happened? And by getting them to open up, by getting them to peel back those layers themselves, by you asking the questions, is it that you don't want to live, or you just don't want to live like you are living? What is it about your life that is the problem? Because is it the whole life? People often usually will say it's not their whole life, it's something in particular. So by asking questions, get them to start studying it. Because when you ask them the questions, they're having to actually create the answers. Because deep down, the vast majority of the people don't want to. Because usually if somebody is saying it, they are less likely to take that action than somebody who doesn't. Often it's the people who will leave a note, or everybody else. And it may be somebody who suddenly seems very calm and very peaceful because they've made a decision. Often when people are in that state, they're very calm. It's not a panic thing. If they're bringing it up with somebody, the idea is, I need somebody else in this conversation, because if I'm by myself, something bad could happen. So they want to involve somebody else. So get them to study it, encourage them about finding people who they can talk to, somebody who they can trust. And maybe you're the one they can trust. Maybe they're telling you that because you're the one that they can trust, which means, it's like, okay, we can start from there, but then you encourage them. It's like, we need more people in on this. We need more than just this. We need someone who's close enough to you who can check on you, someone who's there. Who is it that can be there? But, really getting them to identify exactly why they have this feeling and what has changed in their life that brought this about. And maybe this has been a long-term thing. Maybe it's like, well, I've been getting picked on my whole life. Okay, but what was it that pushed you over the top and started getting you to think about this? because most people will instinctively want to live. They just don't see a way out of the problem that is causing them the pain. They want out of pain. So by being able to say, okay, you are in pain. I am so sorry you're in this pain. I am so sorry you're hurting. Let's talk about what is hurting you and what is bringing you to this thought and why now. Because sometimes there could be timing. Maybe it's the anniversary of the death of a loved one. Or maybe it's, there's a lot of things that can be a part of why they're where they're at. But being able to help them start to walk their own way out of it and to say, okay, how long have you felt this way? And that usually, if you can't think of anything else to say, you can say, how long have you felt this way? And that will get the conversation going, because it's hard to have the answers. And that's why I feel if
I think we just lost her. We just
I think
lost
we
her
lost
audio.
audio.
Yeah, we lost her audio. You there, Doc?
oh, I'm here.
Okay, audio went out for a
We
second.
lost your audio for a little bit.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah, we lost the audio. You there?
Oh,
Yeah, she's
I'm
here.
here.
Okay, she's there. Okay. We're gonna.
I know.
I leave
As
off.
far as
Go ahead, Jay.
events, like, obviously everybody knows tomorrow is 19 years since 9/11,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
being in New York, that is, was a major thing for me. I mean, my mother worked in the World Trade
Oh, wow.
Center. Thankfully, didn't go to work that day. I grew up in the World Trade Center. I was there. I don't even know how many times throughout my life. So I actually
Wow.
wound up watching the second plane hitting the tower in person because I was across the Hudson watching it.
Oh my God.
So it's very around this time is very. I don't want to say thin ice for me because like the littlest thing could just set me off, and it's flashbacks to that day of having to tell my mother because she at the time didn't know what was going on. So between that and hearing stories from people that were inside it at the time that did get out before everything really happened, and um, obviously what you've seen on TV, um, going to the memorial and the museum several times already. It's the little things that are like, when I went to the museum for the first time, I was scared to go forever because I didn't know what it would do, and it took me, I think it was 2 years after it was open. I think it was 2 years after it was open to go to the museum, and um, but I was surprised that all the exhibits that they had and everything, I was okay until I was leaving, and the exhibit that got me was a glass window because I remember going there all the time, and I would lean my forehead against the window and look down and see all the cars looking like micro machines and all the people walking around looking like little dots. And it was just something I always did. I always just used to lean up and look down, and just seeing that window is what made me completely lose it compared to all the rubble, the cross beams that were there, the crushed fire engines and ambulances, all the mementos of all the people that were never found or that were lost after. And it like I one of my mother's friends at the time who was working that day, when the first plane hit, she started evacuating right away. She wasn't playing around. She was like, I'm out of here. And
Yeah.
on the way, she said, on the way down the stairs, there was an announcement over the loudspeaker that everything was okay, go back to work. So a lot of people did, and a lot of people didn't. So she was one of the ones that didn't. She made it out. My mother's best friend at the time went back to work. She was never found.
I'm sorry.
So it's very surreal to know the skyline that I knew growing up and going over down in the same place and looking across and seeing the Freedom Tower and just this massive opening to where those towers used to be. Even though it's been 19 years, I still expect to drive down there and see those twin towers there. I expect to
Yeah.
get off the ferry and right away I would look up and see the Twin Towers and be like, feel like I'm going to fall over because I'm dizzy from the height. And I know that where my mother worked was the 97th floor of Tower 2. And where that plane hit the Tower 2, if she had gone to work that day, there would have been a slim chance of her getting out if she had stayed. So it
Wow.
was, but we did lose a lot of friends. Like I said, I did see a lot of things that happened on TV. And the ultimate, I guess, dilemma that's in my head with thinking of everything is the people that jumped.
Yeah.
And it's what it's how do you make that decision? Like, there's no way you're gonna get out. Do you want to sit there and suffer a horrible death by either being crushed or burned, or would you take the plunge? I couldn't even imagine being stuck in a situation like that, and what logic I would have to use to want to jump out any of those windows in those towers, especially from what I saw looking down all the times when I was there. So
Yeah.
it's a completely surreal thing thinking that it's already been 19 years since that happened. And like I said, I was bullied a lot in high school, and you always the thoughts always, oh, I'm getting out of this school, the next one will be better, it won't be as bad. And then you go to the next school and it's even worse. But you're still the mentality, oh, it's not going to be so bad. The next school's going to be better. Well, unfortunately, at the time, high school was it for me because I wasn't going straight into college.
Mhm.
High school was it for me. So I was like, great, I'm out of here. I don't have to worry about nothing. 2 months after I graduated when 9/11 happened.
Oh
And
God.
I took it, I was like, okay, maybe I'm not meant to be happy. Something's going on here. It's a little too much of a coincidence that, when I finally get away from one thing, now this happens. So,
Yeah.
bottom line is, with everything going on, say if you're with your loved ones, tell them you love them. If you don't talk to your loved ones that much, call them and let them know you love them. Let them know you're thinking about them because you never know when you're going to lose them. Because look at
Mm.
how many families went to sleep on this exact night 19 years ago and had their full family intact, had their firefighter father here, their policeman father here, the policeman mother here, part authority mother here, whatever. Had somebody flying home that they hadn't seen in a month because they were out on business. Somebody flying home to see them for the first time, and however, never happened.
Mhm.
So just
Yeah.
don't take anything for granted, and always, always, always tell somebody you love them, whether it's a friend, a family member, whatever. And reasons like that is why I say, if you are my friend, I consider you my family because I will literally show you. It may not be the conventional way everybody else shows you that they care. I go up to Narrow, I'm like, fuck you, Narrow, and he knows I'm not being serious.
I'm
But
used to it.
it's just, it's the little things you do to let people know you care, and it could be literally anything. It's just something you have to do to literally just tell any friend or family member that you have right now. Just tell them you love them, and if there's some
Mhm.
petty bullshit going on that's causing you to fight with them, just find a way to end it. It's not worth it.
All right, guys, we're gonna split this up into 2 segments. We'll be back in 30 seconds because I got to split this up into 2 different parts with Dr. Ayleen. We'll be right back.